In this video, I'm basically going to talk us both through the notes I have on moral philosophy. Obviously not all of them, that would take way too long. I'm going to focus on the idea of moral truths. Firstly, it's probably a good idea to get down some key terms. So, cognitivism. This is the belief that moral judgments are propositions with truth values. So the statement, "I'm not wearing shoes right now," can be verified as true or false. Look, yeah, it's true, hello, feet. Now the statement, "theft is wrong," according to the cognitivist, would also meet with an answer of true or false. This statement is referring to something as equally in the world as my feet. Non-cognitivism is basically just saying, no, 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 no. And then there's realism, the belief that moral terms are referring to something that is real. Moral values are out there in the world, waiting to be discovered, and objective. Then there's anti-realism, saying, nope. Objective moral knowledge is not out there, moral terms don't refer to physical things, moral statements are an expression of feelings, or maybe nothing at all. Our moral values are derived from our culture. Hopefully you can see that cognitivism and realism match up quite nicely, as do non-cognitivism and anti-realism. Relevant philosophers include Kant, who's a cognitivist, as he believed that we could establish the truth value of moral statements through rational inquiry. He also held with realism, as he believed that there is a moral law out there as part of the fabric of the universe. It's independent from God, and we can discover it through the use of reason. An example of the opposed, a non-cognitivist and anti-realist, would be Nietzsche, who considered our moral values to be a matter of our own personal taste. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the arguments that are in favour of objective moral truths. 1. The fact that we make mistakes. How on earth is that relevant? Well, you look back at a decision and say that was the wrong thing to do, and we learn from an early age that there is a right and a wrong, and we operate firmly in society on that basis. 2. Moral progress. I mean, don't we consider some cultures to be more morally acceptable than others? It suggests that some are closer to these objective moral truths than others in their development. And 3, morality is outside of us. I know plenty of times I've wanted to do something, I've agreed that something aligns with my opinions, but then not thought it actually the right thing to do, when all of my reasoning should be kind of saying that it is. We feel answerable to a higher order of behaviour that is deemed the right thing. Do these arguments work? Personally, I don't think that they do, but I can't deal with the criticisms right now. We've got to move on to the different interpretations of moral truths. So, 1. Plato. He thinks that moral knowledge is on par with factual knowledge. Obviously he's a cognitivist. He'd say, "I'm not wearing shoes right now" is on the same level as "theft is wrong." And the knowledge comes from studying the forms. So moral knowledge is lumped in with what beauty and justice are. Does that simplify it? Maybe. 2. Aristotle believes that moral truth is the knowledge of how to live well and flourish, what he called eudaimonia. More on that later. 3. Mill thinks that moral truths can be found in examining what humans desire. He concluded that this is happiness, so actions that bring about happiness will be the right actions. 4. Then for the reason-based theory, moral truths are whatever we have the most reasons to do. Again, more on that one later. So what about the idea that moral truths are transcendent and independent of God? Bam! Plato again. He thinks that the form of good is the highest form, top-notch, sun in the sky. Once you know good itself, you know all the moral truths. That's literally it. You know it, you're now a moral expert. Well done. Is this too simple? I think yes. It's also elitist. Because if we accept that only certain people, according to Plato, can become moral experts, then we're kind of opening up ourselves to be taken advantage of. Because we, the general populace, will have no way of checking whether this moral expert is real or just making stuff up as he goes along. Moving on, let's talk about something called the weakness of will. This is when I know for a fact what the right thing to do is, and then don't do it. Because it's difficult, because I'm lazy, or it doesn't directly advantage me, and I'm selfish. Now, Socrates doesn't think this is possible, because what is moral is always in our interests, or it's good in itself. And Plato doesn't think this is possible because he believes that knowledge is virtue. If you truly know the right thing to do, you'll have to do it, and if you don't, then obviously you didn't actually truly know. Anyway, if you don't think that moral truths are transcendent, where else can they be found? For some, it's in natural facts. This theory suggests that moral truths are closely tied in with the physical, empirical, and natural facts. For example, Mill's utilitarianism. Mill observed that humans desire happiness. and acting to maximise this can be considered good because happiness is good. That, for him, is a natural fact. However, it's also true that we can't infer what is good just by looking at what people want. I like to collect registration plates when I find them on the side of the road, and yeah, it makes me happy for some reason, but I wouldn't exactly call it good. I mean, I wouldn't call it bad either, I'm just kind of weird. But then again, what other way can we possibly have to determine what good is? I mean, for many it's undefinable. Another argument against this is the open question argument. We might accept that happiness equals good, but does that mean that good equals happiness and nothing else? No. I'm sure that Aristotle would agree, to reach human flourishing you need more than just one thing. Like if we were plants, you couldn't just go off sunlight and nothing else, you need some rain. Yeah, this is turning out to be really long, but this is the last big section, so we're 2/3 the way through. Let's talk about moral truths as based on relational properties. That's saying that we can establish moral truths through things like reasons behind actions, moral reasoning and insight and that kind of stuff. Right, we take a natural fact and use them as reasons to aid in the moral process. What do I mean by that? I'm speaking very quickly. Well, before I ever did any philosophy, I was in New York once, and I had an entire packet of biscuits. It was unopened, it was in my handbag, as you do. It was February, it was cold, and I passed a homeless man on the street, and he looked hungry. I gave him the whole packet. I handed it over because I figured that was the right thing to do. So, let's look at the facts here. 1, he was hungry. 2, they would make him happy. 3, he was cold. He could probably do with the energy. So those facts aren't relational in themselves, but I took those facts and used them as reasons to give him the biscuits. Now, that doesn't give us a moral truth, but they've given me reasons to act in a way that might get us closer to a moral truth. I can apply values to decisions based on reasons and say if they were right or wrong, like I did in New York. Now, why might this not get us closer to moral truths? Because actually, reasons are totally subjective. Depending on how I feel myself, I could mix everything up. What if I'm in a rush? What if I get low blood sugar? What if I think the biscuits mean more to me? It sounds selfish. It is, actually. But depending on my priorities, my entire morality can change. That doesn't sound objective at all. So if these natural facts can't provide us with objective moral truths, is there a case for them at all? And if they do exist somewhere out there, does that actually mean anything? We've already discussed the idea of weakness of will, so we understand the difference between being motivated to do something and being justified in doing it. Like, I'm justified in giving food away to the homeless. That's not evil, it's not bad, and generally it's considered a good thing to do at least. But again, just because I accept it's the right thing to do, doesn't mean I'm obliged to do it. We've all walked past homeless people before and not done a thing. In the end, it doesn't matter if objective moral truths exist if we don't care about them. Okay, that's enough for one day, but I'm going to leave it with this little thing. Do actually give to charity. It doesn't matter how you motivate yourself to do it, just that you do. Okay, thank you!